Welcome to the Hockey Writers Prospect Corner, a show with our top prospects writing crew, bringing you the latest news, analysis, scouting reports, mocks, rankings, and much more. From the World Juniors to the NHL draft floor, from the farm to the NHL, our team covers everything that happens in the world of prospects. So sit back, grab a notebook, and get ready for Prospect Corner.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Prospect Corner here at the Hockey Writers. I'm your host, Matthew Zator, and as always, joined in by Peter Baracchini and Dayton Reimer. Guys, we're halfway through the season now, and the draft is just around the corner. And as always, at this time of year, we update our top 100 prospects list, which is put together by Logan Horn. He does the first one at the beginning of the season, and then, of course, the update in mid-season, and then not until the off-season again is when the next one comes out. But we're going to go through that this episode, as we always do, and go through where all these prospects have kind of been put. So, Peter, how's it going?
It's going great. Yeah. I mean, I always love seeing all these like top 100s or, ranking lists that Logan always has to offer with these massive features. So it's going to be great to dive into it.
For sure. And there are some new guys on this list and also guys that are gone because as some of these rookies or prospects like Macklin Celebrini, he is off this list now because, well, he's in the NHL and he's played quite a few games now. He's an NHLer. He's not a prospect anymore. Dayton, how's it going?
Also pretty good. Yeah. It's weather's been weird. I know I mentioned the weather a lot, but it's because I grew up on a farm. Like that's what people talk about. But yeah, it was like -2 today, and yesterday it was -32.
Oh, geez.
It's been weird.
We got that polar vortex that you just got, so
Yeah. I wish it would just like stay consistent. Like if you're gonna be -32, fine. Like give me a week, 2 weeks of that, and then it'll slowly warm up, and then it's March.
Yeah.
There you go. Simple as that,
I don't need the whiplash. It's too much.
Yeah, well, I'm West Coast here. We don't get that cold. We're at -3, and it hasn't been really cold yet. But I mean, we don't really get a lot of extremes out here, except for the rain, which is always a thing. But yeah, enough of the weather. Let's go to and get into these prospects and the top 100. And as we always, if you've watched this show before, we go through in groups of 10 as it's laid out in the article. And we're just going to highlight some prospects we want to kind of give a bit more love to or a bit more of a highlight and talk about them and to keep watching throughout the rest of this season as well. So, Peter, I'll start with you with the 100 to 91 grouping here at the end. There are 10 pretty good prospects in here. Who do you want to highlight a bit more?
Yeah, I feel like we don't highlight enough New York Islanders prospects because they really didn't have quite a deep enough pool beforehand. But I think there's a lot of names starting to emerge right now. One of them is Danny Nelson, and obviously with the World Junior Championship that he had, being one of those secondary scorers on Team USA, he was absolutely dynamic. I mean, he scored 4 goals in 7 games, 6 points. 17 points in 22 games may seem a little bit underwhelming in his second season in the NCAA, but looks like he's going to be on pace he already matched his goal totals, and he looks like he's going to beat his point totals last year. But, the puck possession style, the play driving that he has, it's very, very noticeable. And he's one of those players that kind of fits that model of what the New York Islanders could be, where he's very hardworking. He's got that drive, the determination on the offensive zone. Even away from the puck, he hounds opponents, basically pressuring them, trying to regain possession, and basically gives them very little room to work with. So he's got that two-way game. He's very energetic, and I think he's one of those players that's really going to, step up big time and be one of those key players for the Islanders for the future.
Sure, yeah, he had a standout time at the World Juniors, and you're looking at, like you said, a prospect pool that's not the strongest. Of course, adding Cole Eiserman really helped boost that. And Danny Nelson's kind of in that realm now. He could be fighting for top prospect status on the Islanders now. which is great for them because they definitely need these guys. Their roster isn't the youngest. It's not the oldest either, but they need some of these guys to kind of step into the lineup soon if they want to do anything. And Lamoriello stops trading his first round picks. So right now, he keeps doing it, and it looks like he might do it again. All right, Dayton, what about you in this group at 100 to 91?
Yeah, you mentioned it was like a pretty good group, even for like starting at the bottom.
Mhm.
So it is tricky to pick. I think I'm gonna go with Tariq Parasik though, because he's been a pretty interesting prospect since last season.
Mhm.
So one of the biggest point totals we've seen from a WHL rookie in a minute. He had
Mhm.
105 points, 43 goals, ended up as a first round pick, 17th overall by the Washington Capitals. Um, Now you'd expect somebody like that to maybe be a little higher than where is he at here again? 95. But he's not doing quite as well, maybe, as one would expect in his sophomore season with the Prince George Cougars. 39 games, 54 points, which is pretty good. 20 of those are goals. Um, but he's only on pace to hit 89 this year,
Mhm.
which is a little bit of a dip from last year. And I think it's because he's lost a lot of the talent he was playing with last year, which, it was Prince George had a very strong team, went to the WHL final, and then, or no, they almost did. Portland was there, I
Mhm.
believe. Yeah, it's the West. I don't pay attention to it as much. The East is where it's at. And I just that kind of brought up my rankings from last year, the draft rankings, because I kind of mentioned that he was probably going to dip a little bit.
Mhm.
And so we're seeing that. He's still an excellent offensive player, but maybe more of a project than some
Mhm.
might have thought.
Yeah, I mean, he's none of these prospects are. I mean, obviously they're in the top 100, so they're pretty good. But yeah, he kind of he's dropped off a little bit, like you said, but still a really solid prospect for the Capitals. A team that, again, another team that needs guys to start coming into that lineup and replacing some of the older guys going out. And they've got. We're probably going to mention the other guy, Ryan Leonard, soon, as well, and he's on this list, of course. But yeah, Parachek is a pretty good prospect for the Capitals. I'm going to mention Elias Pettersson, of course, Canucks prospect, defenseman, 94th overall on this list, and just just a little ahead of Parasek at 94. And he was named to the AHL All-Star game. So that's a pretty good for his rookie season in the AHL. Really solid two-way defenseman. I've mentioned him on this show before, and he's one of their probably I want to say, well, of course, maybe second to Tom Villander in the prospect rankings of defensemen. And he hasn't had an NHL game yet, but I would say he's probably pretty close to it. But yeah, the Canucks need, of course, the depth behind Quinn Hughes and Philip Hronik is not the best for young guys. So Villander, of course, is the next one up, and then Pettersson, if he hits, that's a pretty good guy to have in the lineup too, because he's one of those modern defensive defensemen where he can move the puck and not probably won't generate a lot of offense, but very physical, blocks shots, all that stuff. So and he's had a really solid start to his pro career. So I liked seeing him on this list. A Canucks prospect other than Lekramacky, because there's always been just Lekramacky on here. So Pettersson getting into 94 is pretty good. All right, let's move to the 90 to 81, and I'll start with you, Dayton. Who do you want to highlight from this group of 10?
Oh, one name clearly jumps out to me, and that's number 88, Cole Hudson.
Yeah.
I've been a big fan of his since last year at the draft, watching a lot of his game tape. He is just a fantastic offensive defenseman. I think he should have been a first round pick. He wasn't, obviously, but he's proving that, you know, well, he was at the World Juniors and led the tournament in scoring. So I think that kind of says all you need to know about how much of an offensive impact he brings. He's got 20 points in 20 games with Boston University, and like he is very much a Lane Hudson type of defender, high high possession, really drives the puck. Lots of offense, great playmaker, but he's got a bit of a physical side to him too. He's bigger than his brother. He plays more of a two-way game. Um, yeah, he's a fantastic player. Personally, 88 might be a little low for me. But I think with as many guys as we've got coming up, this is maybe a good range for him.
Yeah, he had a heck of a tournament. I mean, like you said, he led the that's doesn't happen very often where a defenseman leads the tournament in scoring. And of course is a gold medalist again. Too, so or not again. First time.
Double
He
gold.
wasn't he was on the team last year too. So yeah, very, very solid defenseman. And again, Washington Capitals prospect. We've mentioned two of them already. So he's yeah, definitely worthy of this list. I say probably a little low too, but there's a lot of guys on here for sure. All right, Peter, what about you in this group?
I am going to go with Liam Bixell from the Dallas Stars at 83 because with 8 games already played in the NHL, I highly doubt we're going to be talking about him again this time next season or at the preseason because
Mm.
looking very, very well adjusting to the pro level. I mean, we saw him be that kind of stalwart on the back end at a young age in the SHL, quickly transitioned to the AHL last season. 7 points in 16 games, and he's already found himself in the NHL, which is very, very impressive. And already scored his first 2 goals of his career. Not bad, but let's face it, he's not going to be that offensive, dynamic puck moving defender. More of a shutdown kind of complementary role, as Dayton mentioned in his profile. And that's basically what he's going to be. But he's very, very physical, in your face, mean, tenacious. As we've already seen, he's laid a couple of big hits this time already this season. And already, he's already very, very young, 20 years old, and
Mhm.
already he's a menace in the league in terms of being very strong, very physical. And obviously, when you have rookie skaters come up, there's already that transitional phase. But he's obviously there's going to be some growing pains and hiccups in the road. But so far, he's looking pretty good for the Dallas Stars on the back end, and we know how well they've drafted and developed over the past. And Big Stel is going to be one of ththose players that's going to thrive for them in sort of that 4 to 6 range in terms of being one of those key defenders that they're going to rely on in the future.
Yeah, there's the Dallas Stars. We mentioned a lot about them being a playoff team always and still have solid prospects. And Big Cell's one of them. A few guys have, of course, graduated from this list: Maverick Bork, Logan Stankoven. And maybe they don't have as many big guys on this list as they usually do, but they just seem to be able to take these guys and later in rounds and still be a playoff team and have a solid prospect pool, which is good. All right, moving to 80 to 71, and there's a few really good guys in here. We're gonna, as we keep going, we're just gonna keep getting in higher quality. So, Peter, who do you have in this group?
Riley Height, Minnesota Wild at 77. Kind of like Cole Hudson being a little too low for you guys, a little low for me as well. I think 77 is really too low for Riley Height, considering that this is a player that has amassed 332 points in 256 WHL games, left off Team Canada's World Junior roster twice. So you can definitely rest assured that throughout the rest of his career, he's going to have a chip on his shoulder that say, hey, you guys needed some offense. You could have selected me and you didn't. So now you're going to pay the price. And he's going to do just that at the NHL level because of how offensively gifted that he is. He sees the ice very well. He's very tenacious on the attack. He may be 5'11", 179 pounds, but he is very, very tenacious. Like he doesn't back down from any fight, any situation. He's going to battle in the corners, in front of the net. He's going to do whatever it takes to put that puck in the back of the net or set up a play. He's very, very dangerous when he has the puck. He's dangerous when, retrieving pucks, coming out into the middle of the ice. He's always a threat, and I think that he's going to be a very, very special player for the Wild in the future. And we talk about how, playoff teams drafting and developing well. Riley Height, um, being drafted 64th in 2023, I don't think anybody saw that coming.
Mhm.
But here we are. The Minnesota Wild have got another great prospect on their hands.
Yeah, the Wild are another team that they can obviously, of course, didn't make the playoffs last season, but I, they're a team that still has a really solid prospect pool, and they've made the playoffs many seasons in a row, and they still have good prospects. So, and Riley Heidt, of course, and not probably should have been a first round pick, but they got him really late. And yeah, I think he's going to prove a lot of people wrong in his NHL career for sure. All right, Dayton, what about you for this group?
I was a little nervous. Oh, Peter, I thought Peter was going to steal this one on me.
Oh, wow.
But you didn't. So that's great. I'm going to talk about Fraser Minten,
There you go.
Maple Leafs prospect.
I
But
feel like I've
also,
talked about Mitten too much, though.
that's fair. I really loved watching him when he was in Saskatoon here. So he played about half a season with the Saskatoon Blades, was hoping to turn them into a championship team for the first time in franchise history, believe it or not. He did not, unfortunately, but when he was on the ice, he made things happen. He was so cerebral and like he could just control the play. His skill was so good. And now we're seeing that in the NHL. He is the Toronto Maple Leafs' first call up pretty much for any injury. He just drew back into the lineup with Pacioretty injured. And he's got 4 points in 12 games already. With the Marlies, he's got 10 points in 16 games, five of which are goals. And like, I did not expect him to become this kind of player.
Mhm.
Back in 2022, when he was drafted, I thought a second round pick and like an early second round pick was way too high for a guy who put up 55 points in 67 games. He didn't seem like someone that you would really, bet the farm on. But he's really emerged as just a difference maker whenever he's on the ice, whether he's playing, top minutes in the AHL or he's playing bottom six in the NHL. He's a guy who can be trusted anywhere that he plays. And now I see why he was so highly sought after at his draft year.
Yeah, he had really good training camp. I believe his first training camp was really good. Peter, correct me if I'm wrong, but I know he was one of the top forwards there, and was really close to actually making the team right away. But yeah, he's been really impressive, and to start his pro career too has been yeah, very surprising, I think, to me as well, and how well he's acclimated to the pro game so fast. So yeah, big future ahead for the Maple Leafs, I think. All right, I'm going to quickly mention Fabian Lysell for the Boston Bruins. I mean, 74th, the way it's been going, maybe this is where he probably should be at this point. He probably should be higher, but the way he's performed, maybe not. The one thing about him is that every time they seem to get him into the lineup. He doesn't do a lot in the NHL. He's done okay in the AHL. I mean, 87 points, 110 games. Okay. I thought he was going to be a lot more dynamic, I think, to start his career. I mean, Lysell, when he was drafted, I thought heck of a skilled player. I mean, he was one of the top guys in that draft class. He did drop from where he probably should have been drafted, but yeah, I still think he's going to be a quality guy in the NHL. I just think he might be traded before that happens in Boston. I think he's going to do it somewhere else. But we'll see. He just doesn't seem to have been given a lot of a chance in the NHL yet, but we'll see how it goes later on. All right, let's move to 70 to 61. And Peter, I'll start with you from this group.
As much as I would love to talk about Jetlachenko again, I am not going to, but you could look back past episodes, draft profiles on Jetlachenko on what I think about him because, getting that early start with the Philadelphia Flyers is great. But I'm going to talk about Andrew Gibson, 67, from the Nashville Predators. Obviously originally drafted by Detroit, but was moved over to Nashville. Aside from Tanner Molendyk on the back end and Matthew Schaefer, Andrew Gibson was one of Canada's best defenders for Team Canada at that tournament. Again, we could talk about the penalties, how it could be controversial here and there. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to talk about his game. From that point on in that tournament, throughout the OHL. He's been very, very strong at closing gaps very, very well, taking time and space away from opponents. He's got the defensive mindset that you just want to, or a player that could rely on in any situation, especially when defending within your own zone. He's going to be that type of player that's kind of like a Chris Tanev type of vibe where he's going to block shots, he's going to get in the lanes, he's going to do whatever it takes to win. Offensive upside may not be there, but if he could add a little bit more, that's obviously going to be a little bit more ideal for the Nashville Predators. But it's his defensive game that stands out, where he lays everything out on the line. He's a defensive stalwart. 5-on-5 penalty kill. He's going to be that player that you're going to look at on the bench first, and then throw him over to tell him to get onto the ice and do what he needs to do in order to kill off the penalty, protect the lead, get something going too offensively, because he is very good in transition. He is a good skater. Again, if he could try and get those the production numbers up a little bit, the Nashville Predators have got a really good, solid second pairing defender on their hand.
Yeah, and they're pretty good usually at producing defensemen. Maybe not as much lately, but their history of it. But Gibson, yeah, I think he's going to be a good defenseman too in the NHL at some point. Hey, Dayton, over to you. Where do you want to go in this group?
Well, I think I'm going to talk a little bit about another guy who's surprised me lately, and that's Maverick Lamoureux.
Mhm.
I did not think he should have been a first round pick. He was taken 29th overall, and to me, it was just another example of, hey, this guy's big, and you roll the dice, and like that. To me, that's so risky because so many of these big guys aren't really anything more than just, hey, you've been gifted in the height department, and unfortunately, nowhere else. There's been so many examples throughout the history of the draft where it's of big guys taken in the first round and he busts because he shouldn't have ever been taken in the first round. You can't say that about Lamoureux anymore because he made his NHL debut and he has already 3 points in 15 games. He looks like he's an NHLer. In the AHL, somehow he's almost a point per game. He's got 5 points in 6 games in the AHL with the Tucson Roadrunners. He's really good at using his size. And Logan goes into this at on his list at number 64. He's made some really big strides. He looks much better defensively. He looks way better offensively. I don't think he's going to be an offensive defenseman by any means, but maybe it's worth remembering that Zdeno Chara was never supposed to be an offensive defenseman. That was a big shutdown guy, and for his years in Ottawa, that's what he did. Then he went to Boston and became a Norris Trophy winner. So is that in Lamoureux's future? Tough to say at this point, but that's the projection that he's on. We'll see if he gets there.
Yeah, he's been really surprising, really quickly as well. I mean, I know during that draft year, we were talking about guys that were probably going to get drafted high and they probably shouldn't be. And Lamoureux was one of them we were talking about, and that's exactly what happened. But yeah, he's really proven that, yeah, he probably should have been drafted where he was. And yeah, Utah's got a good defenseman there. All right, moving to closer to the top 50 here. We'll go 60 to 51. And Dayton, I'll start with you on this.
Cool. I'm going to talk about another Capitals prospect because they have too many really interesting ones. And that's Andrew Cristall, who is on fire in the WHL right now. I've been very vocal saying that Team Canada may not have picked, all of the top skill players that they should have, but they picked, I think, a really good team. They just didn't have the guy supporting them to make them a team. They were just a bunch of dudes. Andrew Cristall should have 100% been invited. That is the one thing that I will contradict myself on. He should have been there. And the fact that he wasn't even invited to camp that's a massive oversight. Like he's playing in BC. Like, how did you skip him? Or at least he was. He's now playing in Spokane. He was just traded. And he has 5 goals and 16 points in 5 games with the Spokane Chiefs. That's insane. Like, this guy just cannot stop putting up points. And most of them are goals. He's on track to hit 54 goals this season, which is almost a goal per game. and 132 points. Uh, he's a fantastic scorer, somebody who's been overlooked because he's a little smaller, 5'10". I think there's a fantastic prospect in here, and I think the Capitals have a gem.
Mhm.
Yeah, he was a second round pick. That's stupid.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I doubted myself for a second. It's like he couldn't have been a second round pick, right? Because he put up 111 points last year.
yeah.
Uh, little guys. Sorry.
No, Peter can attest to that. He was one of his, yeah, Crystal was one of his favorites during that draft year for sure. And I mean, just speak quickly on what he's done lately. I 3 goals and 7 points, and I on January 11th, and then that was in a 12-2 win, and then a 10-0 win right after that, 5 points. But yeah, over the last 4 games, he's got insane amount of points. He's just on fire. And Berkeley Catton, I as well. We'll probably talk about him later.
Oh, the
I think
Chiefs
he
are
had 6 assists or something in that 12-2 game. But
yeah, the
yeah,
Chiefs are a team to watch for the playoffs. The Spokane Chiefs are incredible. Um, yeah, like definitely keep an eye on them for the championship. They loaded up.
yeah, adding Crystals for sure really added to that
Yeah.
for sure. Right.
When you already have Berkeley Catton, like
Yeah, they're a pretty exciting team for sure.
mhm.
All right, Peter, who do you got from this group?
Initially, I had Andrew Cristall too, because I mean, you look at the points per
He's too
game
good.
with Kelowna 2.14 and now 3.20 with Spokane. I mean, like, come on, that's like be a pro numbers in NHL right now. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I'm glad Dayton picked him, because there's also another name that I really wanted to talk about too, and that's Liam Greentree from the Los Angeles Kings. Um, Obviously not the quickest skater, but the smarts, the awareness, the two-way game that he possesses. He's kind of like I can't remember. I have to go, or we have to go back. Dayton, who did you say was very cerebral when you were talking about this earlier today?
Um, there's been a lot of guys.
Well, you mentioned one player that's very, very cerebral. Green
uh,
Tree is
Fraser
definitely
Minton.
that. Fraser Minton. There we
Yeah.
go. And you can kind of get that sense with Green Tree because of that two-way game, the smarts that he possesses on both sides of the puck. Um, Getting into lanes, providing great support. But obviously, unlike Minton, Green Tree has a little bit more offensive upside to his game, especially when he has that shot where, when he gets those looks in the high danger area in the open ice, he's definitely going to wire it on net, and it's most likely going to find the back of the net. But the scans, the reads, the positioning, he has it all. And even without the puck too, he's very, very defensively sound. Um, I thought that maybe he could have been a little bit higher up. On the draft board, or get selected a little bit higher up, but falling to the Kings at 26 is definitely going to look like a real steal for him. Great leader, obviously because he's the captain of the Spitfires as well. But you know what? He's got that dominant offensive game going on, and he's looking like he's going to be a key factor for this team. 119 points on pace for this season. So yeah, Green Tree is definitely one name to keep an eye on.
Yeah, he's been a big part of the Spitfires' resurgence into being one of the top teams in the OHL again after not doing too much last season. Yeah, he's been a big part of it for sure. All right, moving into the top 50. And this is where we start getting into I mean, we've already talked about many skilled guys. I didn't say that even more, but there's a lot more guys here. So, Peter, I'll start with you into the top 50. Who do you have from 50 to 41?
So I want to play a little game. I'm going to pick a Seattle Kraken, but can you guys guess which one I'm going to pick? Because there's like three in here already. I mean, this is going to be easy because I was very high on him in his draft year. That's Carson Raykoff, and also one of the players that were highly underutilized or not used properly by Dave Cameron in that World Junior Championship. There we go. We all agree, because I think we could all be better coaches than Dave Cameron at this point. But yeah, I mean, you look at a player of his skill, where he's on pace for another 30-goal season, 25 already, 55 points, 101 he's projected to finish with point wise. 46 points. I mean, this is the guy who just finds the back of the net, and he's formed one of the most dangerous lines in that OHL with Luke Misa and draft eligible Porter Martone. And I think we could all agree that, there were some games to Misa's game last year where maybe we were a little bit hesitant on, but he's showing that he could answer the call. Martone, we know what he's capable of, but the offensive power, the accuracy, and the shot that Raykov has is definitely one that's going to pay off dividends for the Seattle Kraken because they got a lot of smart, responsible type of players, but they needed that. They kind of needed an offensive dynamo, and Raykov definitely could potentially be that guy in their top six where they could use him 5-on-5 situations, power play with the accuracy that he has. I mean, it's already at a high end level, and also with that speed and transition, it's definitely going to throw a lot of defenders off. So, Carson Raykov is one name that I've even talked about plenty of times on the show because I'm a big fan of his, and it's a big reason why.
Yeah, the Kraken, their trio of prospects in this group, they've got a few more. Yeah, Dayton, are you picking a Kraken or are you gonna pick from one of these other guys in this
I'm gonna
tank?
pick another guy because my favorite guy is in this section. I'm surprised you didn't think I was going to talk about him immediately.
Oh, we already know who it is.
Yeah, of course. If anyone's been paying attention, I'm going to talk about number 45, Tanner Mollendijk, my favorite prospect. The fact that I got to watch him for a couple of seasons in Saskatoon it was like candy.
Yeah.
He is, when he chooses to turn it on, you cannot stop him. One of my favorite transitions was when he picked up the puck. I think it was against the Seattle Thunderbirds. He got it up at the top of the blue line, cycled around the back of the net, and then did it again because he either couldn't find a shooting lane or anybody to pass to. So he just did it himself. He is one of the best skaters I've ever seen. And it was, it was sad to see that he was traded to the Medicine Hat Tigers at the deadline. But now that he gets to play with Gavin McKenna, who is essentially, the same type of player, but just has that higher upside, someone who can control the game whenever he gets the puck, if he chooses to do so. He has the speed, he has the skill. Like, I don't know how the Tigers aren't going to be a threat for the final. So, maybe having Medicine Hat versus Spokane in the final, I think that's a very real possibility.
Yeah, I mean, Mollendijk's been, again, this is another Predators prospect, another defenseman that, I mean, they've got some good guys, again, in the system for defense, Gibson and Mollendijk being two of them. And yeah, he's, like you say, one of the best skaters in that 2023 draft and still one of the top skaters in the WHL. So yeah, well, he's definitely ready for the NHL in that aspect. We'll see how the rest of it kind of translates. But yeah, a heck of a prospect, really deserving of being in the top 50 for sure. All right, let's move to the 40 to 31 as we keep moving through this list. And Dayton, I'll start with you for the 40 to 31.
Ooh. Yeah, it's getting a little trickier now. Why don't we do Oliver Moore, who
Yeah.
I did write the profile for. There's been a few guys we've talked about that I wrote the profile for. Thanks. I appreciate it. He is, I'm a sucker for a good skater. Whenever I'm watching draft clips, to me, a good skater really stands out more than anyone else because of the way that you can create space, the way that you can create opportunities. If you are a slower skater, you cannot do that, even if you are just as intelligent or more so. So to me, Oliver Moore was such an interesting player in the 2023 draft because of that extra gear that he had. He was so fast, um, so agile. He was one of the most interesting and a little guy, 5'11". Anyone under 6 feet is 5'11", even though most are still taller than me. Yeah, gotta love that, right? So he had a really good World Juniors too. I can't remember exactly how many points he had, but I will pull that up in a second. So I don't think, yeah, it is still undecided how much of an impact he'll have at the NHL level, but he's doing quite well in college. He had 5 points in 7 games with the Americans at the World Juniors. Of course, got another World Junior gold medal, which he did as well last year. Yeah, at number 31, I think that is very fair for one of the Chicago Blackhawks' most interesting prospects. Maybe not their best, but definitely the most interesting.
Yeah, and I didn't expect them to get him in that draft too, really. I mean, they've been able to gain, I mean, of course, gain the first round picks, which they've been able to do, and getting two in one round they've done that. They did it with Frank Nazar as well. They had two picks in the first round. Yeah, is one of their top prospects for sure. All right, Peter, what about you for this group?
Um, Kind of like with Dayton with the great skaters, I like the players that have that hard work ethic, drive, and determination. And that's Michael Bransig, Nygaard, Detroit Red Wings. Last year too, like watching him play, even at the World Hockey Championships, I just love the compete and the drive that he shows. He's already got the NHL size. He's got the NHL caliber shot. Um, basically one of those players that, if you need, that situation where you're probably down, you need some energy, some life. This is a guy that you want out on the ice because of how his strength works, his body positioning, his ability to get to the middle of the ice. Maybe not the best skilled player, but definitely impactful in all areas of the game when he's in the offensive zone. When you need someone to win a board battle or get possession of the puck, it's definitely going to be him because he's got the skill and the size to do just that. And again, definitely going to be a middle six option for the Detroit Red Wings in the future, especially on that right side. But man, with his ability, his skating, and his shot, it's definitely going to be something that's going to be working to their advantage.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's the thing about the Red Wings. Again, they've got some really interesting prospects as well at the forward group, and a lot of similar type two-way type guys, which Marco Casper, of course, one of them, Nate Danielson, Branson Nygaard fits that mold too. Very good two-way players that can score and can be, put throughout the lineup and be effective, which seems like Yzerman really likes those types of players. And we'll see if they can maybe turn the tide of what the Red Wings have been doing lately, not making the playoffs and stuff. But they've been doing better with the new coach. But we'll see how all these guys kind of do. All right, moving further here, 30 to 21 as we get closer to the top 10. And Peter, I'll start with you in the 30 to 21 group.
Yeah, so if I miss out on Fraser Minton now, I can't miss out on Easton Cowan because of the 60 game point streak that he is on right now. I mean, dating back to last season in the regular season, it's not an official season record, but the fact that he's had a point in the regular season for 60 consecutive games is impressive. And I don't care who you're looking at. It could be on any other NHL team, and that feat is going to be impressive on its own. But just his play overall, it's something that the Maple Leafs need. He's very tenacious. He's energetic. He has the speed, the skill. He's an all situations type player. And again, there's probably going to be a lot of pressure on him because of the fact that he was a first round pick. But I think he knows what he's going to be at the next level. And considering how he's going to be riding under or basically flying under Matthews, Marner, and Nylander, he's going to be like that Matthew Nice type player. He's going to be a support player, but with his skill and his game that he possesses, it's definitely going to work for him individually and for the team as well. So he's definitely got a lot of potential. He's got a lot of upside, and I'm still looking forward to seeing what he's going to do for the Maple Leafs in the future.
Yeah, very impressive. I mean, didn't have the best World Juniors, but I mean, not a lot of the guys did. But still a very high-end prospect, and being this high on the list is definitely deserving of what he's done in the last. I mean, he could be in the NHL. I mean, he was very close a couple times to making the team and being sent back. I think this is the last time he'll probably be in the junior and coming maybe NHL. we'll see next season. All right, let's go to Dayton. Who do you got in this 30 to 21?
Yeah, there's two guys I kind of want to talk about that Peter didn't take either of, so I'm gonna make the choice. Um, let's go with Cole Iserman. Number 23, another Islanders prospect. He is such a more well-rounded player now than he used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think it really shows just, his commitment to being a better player. I found an interesting snippet from the as he was leading up to the draft, the 2024 draft, because he was on pace to break all kinds of records with the USNDP. Um, he could have been, right on track with Gavin McKenna, James Higgins, like that kind of scoring. And his coach took him aside and asked him, "Do you want to be a guy who can break these records, or do you want to work on your overall game, maybe take a hit on the draft floor?" And he chose to work on his 200-foot game. He wanted to be a better all-around player. He knew that was something that he needed to improve on. And so instead of being a top 10 pick, the Islanders grabbed him 20th overall. He is now a point per game. Well, he always was a point per game player. He still has 13 goals with Boston University. And he was on the gold medal winning team with the Americans again. We're going to keep bringing that up because, of course, there was a lot and they were really good. But he's he's a much better player. He can play down in the lineup and he doesn't have to be a star. And he's just as effective as if he was on the first line firing pucks into the net. He's a much, much better prospect than he was a year ago. And I think that really speaks to the kind of NHL player he could be, is a real impact maker. Maybe in like maybe along the lines of someone like Dylan Larkin, who maybe not a 100-point guy, but somebody who makes the team better around him.
Yeah, that's something that Eiserman probably wasn't talked about as being, of course, was more that goal scorer, and that's all he does, and that's probably why he maybe a bit why he dropped too. But that's a testament to him. Wanting to work on that and to be a better player in the long run. He's going to have a longer career because of it. You can't be all offense. We've seen many players flame out because of that. Coaches just get fed up, and then organizations get fed up and they trade them. And they all of a sudden on 20 teams by the end of their career because they just can't stick. Playing the defense that a lot of coaches want. I would say probably 100% of the coaches want to put you to play defense. Unless you're scoring at ridiculous pace that they don't really care. But I mean, I don't know if there's many of those guys. All right, I'm going to talk about Tom Willander quickly because he's the Canucks prospect and he's in this group. 27th here and had a really strong World Juniors, probably next to Axel Sandin-Pellikka. Probably, I mean, there was some times where you could say maybe Willander was the better defenseman, two-way guy, and he did put up some points too. And he's going to be a big part of the Canucks' future on the blue line. Hopefully, beside Quinn Hughes, and form that even more dynamic pairing than what he has with Hronek. But yeah, Willander's he could end up being a pretty good offensive defenseman as well. Obviously, not at the level of Quinn Hughes, but he could be a 50-point guy in the Hronek type realm. But yeah, I'm really excited for him to come into at least the AHL, but we'll see how long he stays in the NCAA. He was having a really good season there too. So really happy to see him at 27th. Okay, we're moving into the top 20, and there's going to be really tough to pick some of these guys because they're really high end. And Dayton, who do you have in the top 20 or 20 to 11?
I think I would be remiss to not talk about the only Senators prospect on this entire 100-player list. Carter Yakimchuk is far and away the Senators' best prospect. And so it's no surprise that he ends up in the top 20 here. He is just a force on the blue line. He is big, he's imposing, he is not afraid to put you in your place. And he's also one of the better offensive minds in the WHL on the blue line right now. in 31 games, he's got 14 goals already, which is second among blue liners. A 20-year-old currently is ahead of him, Bryce Pickford for the Medicine Hat Tigers. He's got 18, but he's also got 7 more games in hand. Carter Yakimchuk has 34 goals, not 34 goals, 34 points in 31 games, 46 penalty minutes. He's a tough customer, and I know a lot of people were saying that he should have been on the World Junior team. He still has some growth to do. His game is still raw. He needs to iron out some of those defensive issues, which are still present. They're not as bad as last year, not at all. And he's working on them. He just needs to continue working on them. He's not an NHL player quite yet, but he will be. And when he gets there and he's ready, this guy's going to be unstoppable.
Yeah, he's projected to be that top pairing defenseman in the NHL, and that's why he was ranked so high in the draft. And he's, yeah, like you said, still needs to work on his defense. But I've said this many times: you can't teach offense. He has it, and you can iron out the defensive deficiencies with coaching and stuff like that. But as long as they're willing to work on it, I think that's the biggest thing. All right, Peter, who do you got in the top 20 to 11 here?
Speaking of players where you can't teach offense, number 18, Denton Mateychuk from the Columbus Blue Jackets. Obviously, very memorable first game for him where he had a goal and assist for his first NHL game. Obviously, that's always great to see. And even the fact that, teammate Luka Delba losing his first game of the season, not first of his career, but, also had a goal and assist. So you love to see, the Columbus Blue Jackets prospects start to come up and make their impact and presence known. But, teams look for that dynamic offensive puck moving defender, and the Mateychuk is definitely going to be that. The way he utilizes the open space, the way he's able to find it, the way he uses his hands in tight spaces, he just cuts through and pushes defenders back as a defender himself, which is, impressive to see. When he's in full-on attack mode, and when he's in the offensive zone, he's constantly scanning, finding to make a play, getting pucks on net. He can do it all, and he continues to grow every single season. I mean, when his WHL career came to an end, he immediately went to the Cleveland Monsters and had 3 assists in 4 games in the playoffs. Just 25 points in 27 games, just under a point per game player as a rookie in the AHL in the next step. Impressive in its own right. And now already 3 points in 12 games at the NHL level. Won't be long before he's going to be off this list. I think it's going to be a matter of time where he hits that 25 game mark, and, he's going to be a full-time NHLer because he's definitely got a lot of promise and a lot of potential on that back end.
Yeah, Mateychuk's been one of my favorite defensemen for a long time. In his draft year was one of my favorites, and he's close to being a full-time NHLer. I mean, like you said, just made his debut not that long ago with the Blue Jackets, and they've got a pretty good blue line for forwards, but of course, trading away a Jiricek kind of opened it up. Mateychuk is now one of their top guys, and he was before, but now he's even higher, and he's going to be, I'm excited to see him in the NHL full time too. All right, I can't go away without talking about Lekkermacki because he was 17th on here, just ahead of Mateychuk, and he's been prominent. His name's been talked about a lot lately. He's been in the NHL, he's been in the AHL, up and down. I want to say he's not been really impressive in the NHL. He's scored a couple times, but he hasn't really wowed me as much as I thought he would. But he's still been, he's looked good in the NHL. He hasn't looked out of place, which is great. He'll round it into form offensively, I think, eventually. And he hasn't been really given the line mates to do it either. He's kind of sometimes with Pettersson, he gets put on the 4th line, been all over the place. But in the AHL, he's one of the Abbotsford Canucks top scorers. And whenever he goes back there, he just scores goals. So he's definitely figured out the AHL level. And it's just a matter of time before he's full-time NHL and 20-goal scorer and stuff like that. So, Lekkermacki, he's on the up and up. 17th is a good spot for him here. Okay, moving into the top 10, and these are all high-end prospects. And I'll just quickly go through the top 10 here of who's on this list. So we got Zane Parekh, 10th here at Calgary Flames. Axel Sandin-Pellikka, 9th with the Red Wings. 8th is Washington Capitals, Ryan Leonard. Sam Dickinson at 7. Berkeley Catton at 6. 5's Caden Lindstrom. 4 Zeev Buium. 3 Ivan Demidov. 2 Artem Levshunov. And number 1, Alexander Nikishin. So number one prospect. We'll talk about if that is the right one or not. But Peter, who do you want to highlight from this top 10? We've talked about these guys many times on this show before, but who do you want to give kind of a special mention to?
Yeah, that's definitely going to be Ryan Leonard for me. He was the heart and soul of that Team USA team. He was a difference maker. There were times where he was just taking control of a shift. And I know that it's tough to say that when you've got a lot of quality players on that team, and when your line also includes Gabe Perreault, who we didn't talk about, unfortunately, he was at number 11, and James Hagens, when you're teammates with them in college and you have that chemistry, you feed off them very, very well. And he did just that. I mean, there were so many times wherever he had a prime scoring opportunity, it just missed wide or went off a post. He had a ton of scoring opportunities and he was generating a lot of chances. He finished the tournament with 10 points in 7 games. He's 22 points or 15 goals and 22 points in 21 NCAA games. I mean, he's just an absolute beast on the ice. I mean, he makes his presence known. He's very physical. He's very engaging. And when he gets control of that puck, he just bullies his way through his opponents, and he doesn't care who's in the way. He's going to make your life miserable. He's going to get pucks on net, and he's going to find the back of the net. Every single time when he teed up for a one-timer, he was putting all of that power and force into those shots, and you see that throughout the season. I think that maybe 8 may be a little bit too low for him here. I definitely think he could be in that top 5 conversation, and I think what he's accomplished this season in college at the World Juniors definitely going to push him over the top, and definitely could be one of those power forward, highly offensive power forwards that's going to do a lot of damage. And, we talked about Hudson, we talked about Crystal. Let's round it up and make it a hat trick with Ryan Leonard.
Leonard looks like an NHL player already. I mean, his physical stature is already there. He could probably step in the NHL pretty quick for the Capitals and not look out of place. And he probably will, not that long from now, be in the Capitals lineup. And they're a pretty good team already. Adding him would be really good. But yeah,
I was about to say, sorry, we also talked about Tariq Parasic, so hit him with the 4 with the 4 Washington Capitals prospects there.
Yeah, we mentioned a lot of Capitals here. So yeah, Leonard, like I said, we were going to talk about this guy. We're going to talk about Leonard for sure. All right, Dayton, who do you have you want to talk about in this top 10?
I realize I've been talking a lot about Western kids, but I also feel kind of like a Western insider. So I'm going to keep doing it. If you're mad about it, tell me in the comments.
Deal with it.
Yeah. Get in the comments. So I'm going to talk about Caden Lindstrom. He is a great prospect. Number 5 ranked Columbus Blue Jackets. They picked him 4th overall. When he's on the ice, he is a dominant power forward. He's physical. He can move the puck really well. He worked really well with some of the Medicine Hat Tigers' other players like Andrew Basha and Gavin McKenna. Can't imagine what he'd be like with Tanner Mollendijk on the team as well. And I have to say, imagine, because he has not yet played this season. I know Logan says that he's not worried. I'm a little worried. You can't miss almost a full year of hockey. Like, he hasn't played since, was it May? Like, it was before the draft. He
did get some action before the combine and draft.
Yeah. So he had 4 games in the WHL playoffs, and then he was back on the injured reserve. Said he was feeling good in the offseason. Then he just underwent a another back surgery. The last report was in November. He was supposed to have minimal activity for 30 days. Now he's kind of ramping back up. He is playing with the team, according to some reports from the Medicine Hat News. Um, so things seem to be going well. And if he gets back to the team and is able to find some of that consistency, he's he's almost certainly going to find his rhythm back. Like he's too good to not be a dominant player. And that's what the Tigers are definitely hoping for. They want him to be, that kind of centerpiece on their top lines to make them basically an unstoppable force in the playoffs. They've got another guy, Oasis Weisblatt, who is the brother of Ozzy Weisblatt, younger brother. He's mean. He's a nasty player on the ice. And putting him with Lindstrom makes the Tigers just like impossible to deal with. And you got those two guys tying you up and hurting you, Lindstrom and Weisblatt. Then you get McKenna and Mollendijk to just skate around you because you're injured. In the perfect world, that's an incredible team.
Yeah.
But he's got to get on the ice first, playing some actual minutes.
Yeah.
And I personally am feeling a little bit nervous about it. I'm still hopeful. I think he can. I think he still deserves to be fifth overall on Logan's list here. But he's going to need some extra time to get up to a spot where he can compete with his peers when he's starting to make the NHL push.
Yeah, the injury issues just unfortunately he's had some bad luck with it last couple seasons, and
Herniated disc.
Yeah,
not
those are tough.
Minor injuries too.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough, and I hope it doesn't get to a point where it's like Olli Juolevi type thing where high end prospect, but all those major injuries, kind of major surgeries, rehab, all that stuff, and he ends up not ever hitting the potential that he probably had in his draft year. And as much as everyone says, why did the Canucks pick him there? He was a high-end prospect. I mean, there was going to be someone that was going to pick him in that spot. It's just those injuries just really, really put him back. And yeah, and hopefully that's not the case with Lindstrom because he's got a ton of potential. I mean, he's a first-line center in the NHL. That's his potential. And if he gets there, hopefully he does, as long as the injuries don't kind of set him back there.
Juolevi, side note, sounds like a great topic for a career cut short article.
Yeah, it's a big one. It will be a really good one. Yeah.
When I finally have time, I'll get onto that. He's been on my list for a minute.
It's a good one for sure. All right, before we close, I want to talk about the top three and if we agree of what this top three is looking like. And of course, that is three is Ivan Demidov, Artem Levshunov, and then Alexander Nikishin. Montreal Canadiens, Demidov, Blackhawks or Levshunov, and then Nikishin Hurricanes. These are all Russians or Belarusians, which is pretty crazy on our top three here. Peter, do you agree with this top three? Biggest being the first guy. And if you don't, who do you think should be the number one ranked prospect?
Yeah, it's hard to look over what Alexander Nikishin has done in the KHL because he's just been absolutely dominant from, the start of the season until now. And I don't think he's going to stop at any time soon. He's got the size. He's got the offensive power with the shot. He's got the skating ability. He's one of those players where, it's definitely going to work out. I mean, we all know how well the Carolina Hurricanes, draft. But if they continue with his development, or if he continues with the path that he's on, he's going to be a number one defender for them. And maybe a few years ago, maybe didn't quite seem like that, but continues to take big leaps every single season. I probably would have Ivan Demidov ahead of Artem Levshunov. I mean, he's just a human highlight reel in the KHL right now. I mean, getting him at fifth overall was absolutely a huge win for the Canadiens this past draft. Continues to just make his presence felt. I mean, with the way that, Michkov is playing right now, Ivan Demidov is, playing very well at the pro level. And this should translate very well for him if and when he does make that jump over to North America, because he's already got that pro experience underneath him. He's got that dynamicism. He's got the hands. He's got the shot. He's got the ability to just make moves in tight. I feel like that's um, a little bit more quality of a prospect that you have with Artem Lashunov. I get that, the right-handed shot, the Chicago Blackhawks, they need him. He's looking very good right now, but I just feel like the offensive power that Demidov has may just overtake that for Levshunov. So I think I would do Nikishin 1, Demidov 2, Levshunov 3.
All right. Dayton, what do you think about the top three?
Uh, I'm not as high on Nikishin as maybe you guys are. For me personally, he's not my number one prospect. I would be okay with him at number three. I think he is a fantastic defender, but he's also the oldest of the three. He's 23 years old, and like he's been doing very well over the last 24 months. Logan mentions that. He's and as you said, Peter, he's one of the best offensive defensemen. He's been tearing up the KHL, leading the defenseman in scoring for 2 seasons. That's not something to ignore. He is a fantastic prospect. For me, of these top three, I'd put Demidov first, Levshunov second, Nikishin third. I think Demidov just has an incredible ceiling. I don't think he's even, brushed it yet. And Levshunov, similarly, I think could be a dominant top pairing defenseman. He's going to take some time, though. And to me, that potential is so much higher than Nikishin, who is an excellent top four defenseman, likely if he ever makes the NHL. Will he be a top pairing? Probably. Will he be, a top scoring, a Norris contender? That I'm a little bit less convinced of. The other two, I could maybe see that happening because they're so young. So, a little bit of a controversial or opposing position. I don't know if it's fully controversial. I think having Nikishin as the top prospect that's a bold take, and I respect it. It's just not mine.
Nikishin was not a first round pick, of course, back in 2020. I was 69th overall. I just looked it up. Hopefully I wasn't just totally forgot about it. Third. Yeah, he's one of those guys that late bloomer, and of course probably drafted lower because Russian, and 69th overall, I was right. So I mean and he has exploded over the last few seasons in the KHL, being one of their top defensemen. So he's kind of gone to that realm now. And of course, he's older too. I would probably put Demidov as the top prospect too. Nikishin is, I actually would go the same way you are, Dayton, in
nice.
Demidov, Levshunov, and Nikishin as the top three. And of course, there's some other guys that could potentially be in that conversation too. Axel Sandin Pellikka, after what he's done in the SHL, and then of course the World Juniors. But he's in the top 10. So I mean, a lot of these guys are definitely deserving of being here. And Nikishin may be a bit of a surprise. I know he's been on this list before, but not at this high of a level. He's been in the top 100, but yeah, we'll see if that turns out to be something in the future here. Because he probably, if he does come to the NHL, is probably going to be really soon. I know there's been talk with the Hurricanes trying to get him over, and we'll see if that happens. All right. Thanks, Peter. Thanks, Dayton, for joining me and going through this list. Talked about a lot of prospects. Of course, didn't talk about them all because that would take hours upon hours to go through all 100. We have talked about each of them at some point on the show before, either through the draft, through the different prospect deep dives. But, if you want us to talk about some of these guys more deep, just put them in the comments, and we'll maybe dedicate a segment to them later in another episode. So give us your feedback there. But until our next episode, make sure to check out everything at thehockeywriters.com for all of our prospect coverage. And of course, the draft coming up soon. We'll get the prospect profiles out. It's coming. It'll be after the trade deadline, but that's coming up pretty quick. I know it's in March, but time flies. We'll be there in no time. So check out everything in the meantime. But until our next episode, we will see you next time.